A note won't replace your father's words, especially if he still has something to say. When they arrived at the mansion, the weight of the day pressed down on every corner of the house. Natalie hurried inside, her focus laser-sharp on her father's study. Ryan followed close behind, his footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. Upon reaching the study, Natalie began rifling through drawers and shelves, her movements frantic yet deliberate. If he left something for me, it must be here. He always kept important things in this room. Ryan crouched beside a low bookshelf, opening a wooden box that we won't waste any more time. If he can still tell me what he needs to, I'd rather hear it from his mouth than rely on a piece of paper. They left the mansion in silence, the cold night enveloping them as they waited for another taxi. Natalie looked at Ryan, seeking some comfort. I hope that when we get to the hospital, he's well enough to talk to me. I don't know what I'll do if I lose this chance. Let's hurry. I don't want to miss the opportunity to hear this lesson from my father. Ryan nodded with the same calm he always seemed to find, even in the worst situations. He will tell you what you need, Natalie, and you will be ready to listen, because he knows you are stronger than you imagine. The journey back to the hospital was silent, but Natalie's heart beat strongly, a mixture of fear and hope guiding each thought. Deep down, they knew they were racing against time. The hospital was shrouded in an unsettling silence when Natalie and Ryan arrived. The white lights of the hallway gave the environment a cold. You let me believe your story was different. Why, Ryan? Why didn't you tell me before? I thought we were being honest with each other. She crossed her arms more tightly, anger and confusion bubbling beneath the surface. Ryan took a step forward, holding out his hands in a conciliatory gesture. I didn't lie, Natalie. I just omitted. I didn't want you to see me as a failure, as someone who made unforgivable mistakes. I wanted you to see me for who I am now, not for who I was then. He paused, studying her expression, searching for some sign of understanding. Natalie shook her head, grappling with her thoughts. Do you think I'm so superficial that I wouldn't understand, Ryan? I trusted you, and now I find out you hid something so important. How can I keep trusting you if you didn't even believe I'd be able to handle the truth? He lowered his head, humility written across his features. I was wrong, Natalie. I underestimated you, and I regret that. But I hope you'll see that everything... You let me believe your story was different. Why, Ryan? Why didn't you tell me before? I thought we were being honest with each other. She crossed her arms more tightly, anger and confusion bubbling beneath the surface. Ryan took a step forward, holding out his hands in a conciliatory gesture. I didn't lie, Natalie. I just omitted. I didn't want you to see me as a failure, as someone who made unforgivable mistakes. I wanted you to see me for who I am now, not for who I was then. He paused, studying her expression, searching for some sign of understanding. Natalie shook her head, grappling with her thoughts. Do you think I'm so superficial that I wouldn't understand, Ryan? I trusted you, and now I find out you hid something so important. How can I keep trusting you if you didn't even believe I'd be able to handle the truth? He lowered his head, humility written across his features. I was wrong, Natalie. I underestimated you, and I regret that. But I hope you'll see that everything... Her eyes were red-rimmed from exhaustion, her hands trembling slightly with every thought that raced through her mind. Ryan knelt beside her, his voice soft but firm. No matter what he says, I want to hear every word. Natalie nodded weakly, though her body screamed of fatigue, both physical and emotional. Sensing this, Ryan stood, and offered her a small smile. "Why don't we step out for a bit? A walk might help clear your head. He needs you strong, not worn down. We'll be back before he wakes up, I promise." She hesitated, glancing toward the hallway leading to her father's room. The weight of uncertainty pulled at her chest. Finally, she relented. "Maybe you're right, but just for a moment. As soon as he wakes up, I want to be there, to hear everything." Outside, the square seemed alive with life. The laughter of children playing, birds chirping melodiously, and the gentle rustle of leaves swaying in the breeze. To anyone else, it might have been an invitation to relax, to breathe. "What happened?" The doctor's voice came through calm and reassuring. "Miss Natalie, I have good news. Your father has woken up and is asking to see Ryan. He seems stable, but he insists on speaking with him urgently. Please come back to the hospital as soon as possible." When the call ended, Natalie stared at Ryan, shock written plainly across her face. "My father asked to speak to you, not me. Why would he ask for you instead of me? What does he have to say to you, Ryan?" Ryan's expression mirrored her bewilderment. "I don't know, Natalie, but whatever it is, we'll figure it out, together." For a moment, they stood frozen, the unresolved tension between them overshadowed by the urgency of the situation. Hand in hand, they hurried back toward the hospital, their steps quickened by unanswered questions and the fragile hope that somehow, amidst the chaos, they'd find clarity. Ask, explain. No matter what he says, I want to hear every word. As for an answer, I know what this means. I'm very sorry for any disturbance. I apologize for any disturbance. I'm very sorry for any disturbance. I have been acting incorrectly this whole time, but please understand the nature of the incorrect situation. I apologize for any disturbance. I've turned my head around and stood beside him and called Ryan. I'm very sorry for any Natalie insisted, her voice. What happened? The doctor's voice came through calm and reassuring. Miss Natalie, I have good news. Your father has woken up and is asking to see Ryan. He seems stable, but he insists on speaking with him urgently. Please come back to the hospital as soon as possible. When the call ended, Natalie stared at Ryan, shock written plainly across her face. My father asked to speak to you, not me? Why would he ask for you instead of me? What does he have to say to you, Ryan? Ryan's expression mirrored her bewilderment. I don't know, Natalie, but whatever it is, we'll figure it out, together. For a moment, they stood frozen, the unresolved tension between them overshadowed by the urgency of the situation. Hand in hand, they hurried back toward the hospital, their steps quickened by unanswered questions and the fragile hope that somehow, amidst the chaos, they'd find clarity. Ask, explain. No matter what he says, I want to hear every word. Natalie insisted, her voice. That I was born with this strength, Natalie. I became strong because I had to, because I had no other choice. But there's something I need to tell you, something that might change what you think of me. Natalie frowned, curiosity mingling with apprehension. What do you mean? What have you been hiding from me, Ryan? I thought you'd been honest with me until now. Her voice carried a tone of disappointment that hit him like a punch to the gut. Still, he knew the truth couldn't wait any longer. Lowering his head, Ryan searched for the right words. Natalie, I never told you the whole story of how I ended up on the streets. It wasn't just bad luck or circumstances beyond my control. I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong people, made bad choices, and because of that, I lost everything. My family, my home. For a while, I even lost faith in myself. But those experiences shaped me. They made me see what really matters. His confession reverberated in Natalie's mind as she struggled to process it. Hello? Yes, it's me. Natalie, is my father okay? What happened? Her voice came out anxious, almost breathless, as she waited for the answer. The doctor's voice sounded firm, yet calming on the other end. Miss Natalie, I have good news. Your father has woken up and asked to see Ryan. He's conscious and seems well, but we suggest you both come to the hospital as soon as possible. He didn't explain further, but it seemed important. We're waiting for you here. When the call ended, Natalie looked at Ryan, visibly stunned. My father asked to speak to you. Not even me, you. That doesn't make sense. What does he have to say to you? And why didn't he ask to speak to me too? Ask, explain. Ryan seemed equally surprised, but his expression hardened with determination. I don't know, Natalie, but if he wants to talk to me, then it's something important. Let's go back to the hospital and find out. Without hesitation, the two began walking briskly toward the nearest taxi stand. The distant sound of the plaza faded away as anxiety took hold of Natalie again. I hope, this time, he tells me everything I need to know. Maybe this is the moment to understand what he meant from the beginning. The hospital was enveloped in a tense silence when Natalie and Ryan arrived back. The glare of the white lights and the echo of footsteps down the corridors heightened the feeling that something important was about to happen. Each step toward Thomas's room seemed to carry more weight. Natalie held the phone in one hand, the doctor's words echoing in her mind. Your father wants to talk to Ryan. The confusion was clear on her face. She turned to Ryan, her voice laced with uncertainty. Why does he want to talk to you? Natalie paused for a moment, feeling the impact of the scene. She approached slowly, sitting by his side and holding his hand. Dad, I'm here. What did you want to tell me? I'm listening and I want to understand. Thomas opened his eyes with effort, a faint smile forming on his lips. Natalie, my daughter, you are everything I've ever dreamed of. I know I haven't always shown it, but never doubt my love for you. You are strong, stronger than you can imagine, and I want you to keep being that way, no matter what happens. Before he could say anything else, Thomas began to cough violently, his body. Shaking as the machines around him set off alarms, Natalie called for the doctor, holding her father's hand tightly. "Dad, stay with me. You can't leave me now. We still have so much to talk about." The doctor and nursing staff, she prepared to walk down the aisle. Her mind was divided between the emotion of the moment and concern for her father, who, despite his frailty, had insisted on being present. The flowers lining the aisle seemed a blur as she took her first steps, her arm linked with Ryan's as he accompanied her to the entrance. The commotion at the church entrance was enough to make everyone turn. Thomas arrived on a gurney, accompanied by paramedics and the personal physician who tended to him at the hospital. He was pale, but the smile on his face was one of pure pride. Natalie paused for a moment, eyes glistening, watching her father being carefully positioned where he could witness the ceremony. "He came. He really came," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Ryan squeezed her hand gently, leaning in to speak softly. "He wouldn't miss this for the world. You know how much he loves you. Now's the time to show him it was all worth it." The priest began the ceremony with simple yet meaningful words, reminding Al, "For everything you did, Dad. If there's one thing I've learned from you, it's that nothing in your life was by chance. So what do you want to tell us? Is it about the key or about what you've been keeping for me?" Thomas gave a weak laugh, but full of meaning. To Natalie, always so direct. "Yes, it has to do with the key. But before that, I need to explain something bigger. You grew up in a life of comfort, never needing to worry about money or basic things, and that worried me. I saw in you an incredible determination, but also a lack of understanding about what really matters. So when I realized I was getting sick, I decided it was time to do something about it." Ryan, who had remained silent, couldn't help but intervene. "Exactly what did you decide, Thomas? I know that everything we've been through seemed to have been meticulously planned, but I never imagined you were behind it all." Thomas nodded, his eyes shining with a mixture of wisdom and sadness. "That's right, Ryan. Everything was planned. The financial difficulty." The air was already tinged with a quiet sense of hope as Natalie wandered through the freshly renovated hallways, her footsteps echoing softly against the walls. It felt like this place mirrored their own journey, broken yet rebuilding, scarred yet full of promise. Ryan walked beside her, his energy uncontainable as always. He split his time between supervising construction workers and engaging with the children who had quickly crowned him their hero. Whether it was hauling materials, hammering fences into place, or sitting cross-legged on the dusty floor, to build imaginary worlds out of blocks. Ryan seemed to belong here in a way that made everyone smile. "Natalie, look at this," he said suddenly, pointing toward a group of kids huddled together. They were constructing tiny toy houses from scraps of discarded wood, their laughter ringing out like music. "This is what we're creating, a space where they can dream, play, and just be kids." Natalie paused beside him, her lips curving into a smile. He knew Ryan would walk into that store that day. How could he have been so sure? Robert nodded, his smile enigmatic. Thomas knew because he understood Ryan. Even without money, Ryan had a habit of wandering through that part of the city, looking for ways to help people. It wasn't luck, Natalie. It was planning. Your father was confident you'd learn from Ryan, just as he himself had learned from Ryan's mother years earlier. Ryan's eyes flickered between the photo and Robert. Emotion brimming beneath the surface. "I never knew my mother had any connection to Thomas. I always thought she was alone, working tirelessly to support us. Finding this out now," shaking his head. "It's a lot to process." Natalie closed her eyes briefly, trying to absorb the weight of what she'd just heard. When she opened them again, her gaze was softer, more contemplative. "So this whole plan, it wasn't just about me. It was about my father finding a way to honor Ryan's mother's memory while tea." It was about my father finding a way to honor Ryan's mother's memory while tea. It was about my father finding a way to honor Ryan's mother's memory while tea. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the quiet town as Natalie stood at a crossroads, not just of geography, but of destiny. Beside her, Ryan's steady presence was like an anchor in the swirling sea of emotions that threatened to pull her under. His hand rested gently on her shoulder, his eyes speaking volumes where words might falter. A mix of gratitude, calm, and something deeper she couldn't quite name yet. "Natalie," he began softly, "if this really is part of your father's plan, maybe it's the next step we should take." She felt the weight of the key tucked safely in her pocket, its cool metal pressing against her palm, a constant reminder of Thomas's legacy. Her father had always been a man of purpose, someone who believed in actions louder than words. And now, here they were, standing on the precipice of what could be their future together. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "Yes, Ryan, let's go. If my father trusted you and Robert, then maybe it's time for this." Or had he simply trusted in the goodness of those involved? Robert pulled up to a small house with a white facade and wooden accents. The garden was tidy, though not extravagant, offering just enough space for flowers or a cozy seating area. "Here we are," Robert announced, stepping out of the car and gesturing for them to follow. "This is one of the options I selected for you. It's not grandiose, but it has everything you need to start anew." Ryan was the first to approach. his hands brushing against the rough iron gate. There was a look of wonder in his eyes as he took in the surroundings. "It's different from anything I imagined for us," he admitted. "Not big, but cozy. I can already picture us here, living a quieter life." Natalie hesitated before stepping onto the sidewalk. The house loomed before her, its simplicity both inviting and intimidating. She had spent her life surrounded by luxury, yet here she was, contemplating a home that offered none of the opulence she once craved. His words painted a vivid picture of resilience and kindness. "Thomas met her during a difficult time in her life," Robert explained, his tone warm yet reflective. "She was working tirelessly as a cook to support her young son. He saw in her an admirable strength and wanted to help ensure a better future for Ryan. But before he could do more, she unexpectedly passed away, leaving Ryan an orphan and Thomas with a deep sense of responsibility. Thomas had watched over Ryan from afar, seeing in him the same values he admired in his mother. When the time came to teach Natalie about the value of people and human connections, Thomas immediately thought of Ryan, someone who carried the essence of what Thomas believed true wealth meant. "He knew Natalie," Robert said, turning slightly to meet her gaze in the back seat. "He knew Ryan wouldn't just be someone to teach you, but someone with whom you could share a fulfilling life. He saw that long before any of us did." Natalie fell silent, absorbing. Ryan walked slowly, exploring each room with an attentive gaze. "I like the silence here," he said quietly. "It feels like a place where we can truly start over, without the echoes of the past haunting us." Natalie followed him into the kitchen, running her hand over the simple yet functional granite countertop. "It's strange," she admitted. "I always imagined I'd live in a place full of luxury, but now, looking at this," her voice trailed off as a newfound clarity began to dawn on her. Perhaps simplicity wasn't a compromise. It was a gift. Ask, explain. To grow together and continue the incredible work you're doing here. "What do you think about starting now?" Robert asked, his voice steady but filled with hope. Before answering, Ryan placed a reassuring hand on Natalie's shoulder. His eyes conveyed a mixture of gratitude and calm as he looked at her. "Natalie," he began softly, "if this really was part of your father's plan, maybe it's the next step we should take." The garden was small but neatly delineated, with enough space for a future flower bed or some resting chairs. "Here we are," Robert announced, stepping out of the car and gesturing for the others to follow. "This is one of the options I selected for you. It's not grandiose, but it has what you need to start a new phase." Ryan was the first to get out, his eyes immediately assessing the surrounding space. He approached the gate and ran his hand over the rough iron, as if feeling the energy of the place. "It's different from everything I imagined for us, Natalie," he admitted. "It's not big, but it's cozy. I can already picture us here, living a quieter life." Natalie hesitated before getting out of the car, a mixture of anxiety and curiosity swirling within her. When she finally stepped onto the sidewalk, she looked at the house with an inscrutable expression. "I don't know," she confessed. "It's so different from anything I've ever lived in. I don't even know where to start building S. It seems like exactly what I need. Not something that reminds me of what I've lost, but something that shows me what I can still build." As they explored the house, Robert observed in silence, giving them space to absorb everything. When they finally returned to the living room, he approached with the folder of documents in his hands. "If you decide on this house, I can ensure the process will be quick. I want you to know that from the beginning, Thomas believed you needed a place that symbolized simplicity, but also a new beginning. He knew it wasn't just a house, but a new chapter. Natalie crossed her arms, staring at Robert. "You talk so much about what my father knew and wanted, but it still seems like there are more things you're hiding. Why did he trust you so much? Why did you agree to participate in all of this?" Robert sighed, placing the folder on the kitchen counter. "Thomas was more than an employer to me, Natalie. He was a friend, someone who believed in people, even when they didn't believe in themselves. Anchor, through all of this, without you, none of this would have been possible. You trusted me when no one else would, and I will never forget that." Robert bent down beside the bed, his rigid expression dissolving as tears finally escaped. "I just did what I thought was right. Thomas, you trusted me, and I promised to be by your side every step of the way. Seeing all of this happen, seeing how your vision changed their lives, makes me realize that you were a man far ahead of your time. I can only hope I have honored your trust." Thomas closed his eyes for a moment, breathing with difficulty before speaking again. "You did more than honor my trust, Robert. You were my ally, my friend, someone I could count on until the end. I want you to know that you are also part of this legacy. Thank you for everything, from the bottom of my heart." Natalie began to cry more intensely, but her tears were not only of sadness, they were of gratitude, of a love that transcended words. She lowered her head, holding her father's hand, Aga, at her with tears in her eyes, murmuring words of gratitude. Natalie turned back to Ryan, her eyes shining. "Every time we help someone, it's like I feel my dad here, telling me I'm on the right path," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "It's strange, but at the same time, it is the most natural thing in the world. He taught me that living is this, being present for others, even when it seems we don't have much to offer." Ryan held her hand tightly, stopping to look into her eyes. "And you've learnt the lesson, Natalie. More than that, you're living the lesson. I've never met anyone like you, someone who turned what seemed like a loss into something so beautiful. He would be so proud of you." As the sun set, casting long shadows across the square, the two remained there together, silently planning their next step in their journey. There were no more doubts, only the certainty that they were on the right path, honoring Thomas's legacy and building a world that reflected everything they had learned about love, empathy,